On April 27th, Sound Transit celebrated the highly anticipated opening of Link Light Rail's second line. Sort of. This is just the starter line, which operates between 8 stations from South Bellevue to Redmond Technology. For some context, voters approved of an Eastside rail line back in 2008. In 2016, voters approved of the Sound Transit 3 plan, which ensured cash flow to extend the Eastside rail line to Redmond by 2025. We are finally seeing the fruits of that labor. I could not have asked for better weather to film this historical event. It doesn't quite go to downtown Redmond or connect with Seattle just yet, but this is still a significant milestone for the regional light rail system nonetheless. I am genuinely looking forward to not having to take an express bus from Seattle to Bellevue or Redmond. They're not bad, they're just not nearly as good as the light rail. Light rail is a faster, more direct, and a more comfortable ride with better views. It may seem a little odd that the full line isn't opening at once, but due to bad rail ties along the I-90 bridge, Sound Transit contractors were forced to rebuild the nearly 5,500 blocks from scratch. This was a massive setback to say the least. Luckily, Sound Transit was able to begin service along a starter line. Once bridge repairs are complete, additional stations will open, and the 2 line will share tracks with the 1 line when it travels through Seattle. For this video, I wanted to take the time to describe each of the stations and my thoughts on the short line as a whole. Starting with South Bellevue, this is largely a park and ride. This will mostly serve suburban commuters and people transferring between buses and trains. It is unfortunate that the garage basically sucked up a lot of the potential land use for transit-oriented developments. Now, if denser buildings were to be built nearby the station, they would probably be placed on the far side of this road, which wouldn't exactly be comfortable to cross. Nearby is also the Mercer Slough Nature Park, so this will be a nice destination for people who want to get closer to nature without actually driving to it. The next station is East Main, and yes, they call it East Main despite the fact that it is clearly south of Main Street. Over here, there is a lot of potential for transit-oriented developments. Next to the station is a swath of single-family homes. If they were densified and replaced with multifamily dwellings that had better connectivity with the light rail, the area surrounding the station could be filled with desirable places along narrow, low-traffic streets. And Bellevue could certainly use more low-traffic, narrow streets. The light rail then goes underground and drops people off at downtown Bellevue. This station is a corner away from Bellevue Transit Center, so it shouldn't be too much of a walk when making those transfers. I do wish the station could have been closer to the center of downtown though. The current positioning is not terrible, but it's certainly a less than ideal alignment, since it leans closer to Interstate 405. The issue is, the freeway just kills a lot of the land use, so the walkshed or catchment area around the station is not going to be properly utilized until the freeway is removed or lidded. The next station is Wilburton Station. The land use around here is awful. It's comical just how many car dealerships are in the area. There's no substance to a station that is surrounded by a bunch of places that are just trying to sell you cars. The land use could be good, but until these car dealerships vamoose, it's not going to be an appealing destination along the light rail. Moving on to the Spring District, this station is next to the Meta Complex and a bunch of housing. I imagine a lot of people working and living around here will take advantage of the station as soon as possible. There's also some bike paths, but they aren't connected to anything. Bike connectivity can help boost transit ridership by making the stations accessible to a wider range of people, since each of the bike paths can act as a feeder to the light rail station. Bellevue did have a plan to improve their bike network in the Bike Bellevue plan, but City Council abandoned it a month before the starter line opened.
You raised my hopes and dashed them quite expertly, sir. Bravo!
Hopefully, a future, less car-brained City Council can reconsider those plans and create a bike network that would attract more riders to the light rail. Just a stone's throw away is Bellred, and there are some nearby developments that will be home to future Link Light Rail riders. I do need to stress that these new light rail stations may not look the best right now, but in 10 or 20 years the land use will get better. Bellevue has a fairly ambitious comprehensive plan to build 152,000 homes over the next 20 years. These stations are great candidates for future developments. Advancing from Bellred Station is an at-grade section of the light rail. Ideally, grade separation would be achieved whenever possible, but it's not always necessary. This may remind people of the at-grade section of the Link light rail running through Rainier Valley, but I don't think this will be nearly as problematic, as the at-grade section of the 2 line is shorter, it actually has crossing gates, and there are fewer lanes on each side. At the same time, if 95% of the system can be grade separated, it is a little weird that it's not 100% grade separated. Moving on to Overlake Station, I like half of this station. There are a lot of developments within a short walk of it, however, it also hugs the freeway. I mentioned this in my video on grade separation, but it is problematic when light rail hugs the freeway because it basically chops the walkshed in half. The station is going to be great for people who live in and around these apartments, but it's going to be awkward for anyone who needs to travel to the other side of the freeway. While the freeway noise is dampened, it's still there. It's just going to be this loud, continuous noise you hear whenever waiting for the train. The final station along the short line is Redmond Technology. This mainly serves offices at Microsoft and other surrounding companies. One feature I adore is this bridge crossing the freeway. It has a 2-way protected bike path and some plants. However, since the above is a freeway, you will also be listening to all that car noise from below. It's a great bridge, but you're probably going to need to wear some noise-canceling headphones if you're walking through it. So that's the 2 line, for now. On opening day, the trains were absolutely jam-packed with riders. Sound Transit is anticipating 6,000 daily riders along the short line, but until initial hype dies down, it will be difficult to gauge how many people will ride the light rail. Once the 2 line is finished, ridership is projected to be between 43,000 and 52,000 daily riders by 2026. I am looking forward to seeing how this line performs because Link Light Rail has a tendency to punch above its weight in terms of per mile ridership. The system may not be perfect, but it definitely draws in a lot of people. This line will transform Bellevue and Redmond for decades to come. It's not just in terms of housing or creating more walkable neighborhoods either. Every new line and station that gets built means more people can directly experience the benefits of rail transit, and more people can be convinced to advocate for additional expansions. It does pave for an exciting future in terms of transit for the region. Now hopefully we don't have to wait 15 years for the fabled third line.